Today's project is a new sheath for this full tang drop point hunting knife. We're going to do a full welt with a bolster retention to keep the knife in place, so you have to twist to pull it out. We'll figure out a good way to mount this fire steel. On the back side, we'll do a belt loop so we can take it off and put it on any belt that he uses. And we'll take you through the process from making a pattern all the way to polishing the edges. So this will be a really fun project. I'm going to make a quick paper pattern of this knife, and what I'll do is trace the shape, and I'll just kind of figure out about how high I want the sheath to go on the knife when it's all finished. I want to take about a ½ inch, and this is going to be the welt that protects the stitching, actually, is what it's all about, so that the knife doesn't cut through. And then after I'm done with this, I will go through with my flexible edge and make these lines really smooth. And then we'll finish it with a crown, kind of like that. This is going to be the bolster retention, and the leather welt will come down and have a little bump on it, so that you have to twist the knife to get it over that, and that way it stays in place. All right, so we pull the leather out. What I'm using here for the front is a 10-ounce. This is just saddle skirting. And then the back is going to be an 8-ounce saddle skirting. And then the welt will be 10-ounce. And then the strap, I like to use 8-ounce. So we'll have 4 pieces. We're going to have the front, the back, the welt, and then the loop, the belt loop. So we'll get those cut out and start putting it together. All right, so here's the important part. We've got the front. Okay, this is the part that's exposed. This is the part that's on the outside. If you don't flip this, then you'll have the rough side out. All right, you want
new
the
sheath.
rough side. New sheath.
Try
Start
again.
over. Another part.
Go to jail. Do not pass go.
That's right. Okay, next step for this will be the grinder. So now, on this back piece, I'm just going to go a little bit outside this line, okay, so that we have plenty of leather to marry it to when we're ready. And then you can always trim this away, right? So that makes sense?
So that little extra bit on that backside gives you room to play with to form it around the knife, because it's hard to determine exactly how big around that knife is.
Gives you wiggle room.
Gives you some wiggle room.
Correct. Absolutely correct. Okay, what I'm doing here is I'm looking for firm leather. Where's my straight edge? Is it right there? And this is going to be for the belt loop, the belt strap.
8-ounce for this?
8-ounce, yep. That's 1.25 inches for the strap. All right. Now the welt needs to be a nice heavy weight. That's good. Okay, so the welt leather is at least 10 ounce. And I sort of base it on the thickness of the blade. So if you look at that blade.
Sure, okay.
Okay, that's pretty close to the same weight.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's a pro tip.
So we're going to lay this. We're just going to cut this out of here. What I'm going to do with the welt, after I get this cut out, I'll show you how I do that. Now see, I'm kind of going a little bit outside the line on this.
What was that?
Like a rabbit or something.
Well, at least it's on video.
That's fucking hilarious.
Itching himself or something?
Yeah, scratching or something.
It's a woodpecker. Oh, we don't have woodpeckers. Oh.
I have never heard that before.
It's not making the final cut.
Okay, so now here, you want to use a tracing of your knife.
We're making the welt right now.
I'm making the welt, correct. And I'm just getting an exact knife shape, so I know where it's laying out. So this is going to be my stitch line, roughly, right, on the outside. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to cut away this area for the knife to rest so that the knife sits on leather. Okay, and this will also give me a little room for, and then this part here is going to stay, and that's the bolster retention right here. So this part right here, what we'll do is we'll glue down one side only, so that when you twist your knife, it'll be glued to the back. So when the knife goes in, it's hitting this leather. Let's just say this is the bolster. It's shaped around it and it's bumping into this leather, and you can't go beyond it. Then when you go to take your knife out, you twist up and pull. Yep.
Works really good.
It works really good. Yep. We might have to mess around a little bit with the exact placement of this. So you want to hang on to this part, the internal part that I'm trimming to, because you're going to use that to keep your spacing correct when you. So when you put this all together, you're going to leave this in here. You're going to glue this down, and then you'll peel this out, and then you've just got that exactly where you want it. Because, it's hard to tell how much it's moved. I'll trim this to the right length when we get to that spot. But right now I'm going to take this to the grinder, and I'm going to get the right shape of this, and then we'll do the dragon scale stamp on it. Okay, so the reason that I like to use that grinder, that belt sander, to smooth the edges is it allows me to true up all the knife cuts that are just not perfectly straight, and it begins that sanding process on an edge. So when I stain this and polish it, it'll already it has a head start to getting nice and smooth. Real quick, throw some water on this. I'm going to show you how I'll do a rough shape before I stamp it. What I'm going to do, we'll lay the knife in there, and then I'm going to put a little pressure to this and get the sheath so we can make sure that we've got enough room. So, because what this will do is just identify if you have totally messed up how much leather you needed for the handle, for example, to make it wide enough. And then you can kind of dry fit this. You can kind of get a quick feel for whether or not your stop is going to work when you lift it up, and there's going to be enough room for all of that to work. Okay, so that looks like that'll be good. I want to mark out the top of it. So when we put this thing together, this will line up. And the edges we're worried about is that one, this edge and this edge, because those are going to be exposed. When we put this all together, those edges will be part of the sheath. And we'll sew it, probably starting right there, all the way around, ending right there, because you've got to have enough room to get the blade in. Before I put this together, this will get trimmed back a little bit, so you have easy to get your knife blade in there. Probably trim that back a little bit. Now, the question we might ask, where would it be most handy to have? I still think.
I think on the back.
Yeah, the way it's done. I mean, we could put it on the front, but
it's not like you ever need it fast.
No.
You just want it to be there.
Want it to be handy. Yeah. So I think we'll just carry on what's done and hang it here. We'll make a much snugger loop than this. Is getting the belt loop ready. And so that's the top. Okay, I'm using this 1.5 inch piece of leather here as the belt. So we want enough room to be able to sew it, and enough room for at least 1.5 inches and some, right? So that, maybe somebody will have a little wider belt.
Or thicker belt.
Right, thicker, yeah. So we just allow for a little bit of room.
Nice.
Number 5 beater. This is where I'll put my maker stamp right here. Slick this out. Okay, first thing I do is give this a little bevel. And then this is going to be, this will have that number 5 beater. And then, because I'm going to sew this triple thickness, I'm going to give myself plenty of room to grind to. So this will be my sew line. And then I'm going to make a nice round bevel when I get this all sewn together and polished.
And this is the reference side. This is the side we're going to grind down to, because this is the back side. This one's a lot bigger.
Right.
So he's doing these permanent lines, establishing where he's going to stitch and then lay out the stamping pattern. On this side, this isn't going to change. That's the final size of the sheath.
This is the final size, correct. All right, so we're going to use this guy. I call it dragon scales. I don't know what it's called, really, honestly. And then we'll do this as the border. Okay, so first thing I do, give myself a nice comfortable border, is establish. This will be where my border is. Now this is going to be stamped inside, right? So this is going to be smooth leather. So you've got a nice frame. All right, so to do this guy, we want to get a straight edge and just kind of roughly give you your best guess about what the dead center is. All right, and then we're going to run the scale pattern. So I'm just going to do a really light vertical. So you can just barely see it.
Nice. Nice. Looks really good. So now he'll go in and cover up some sins.
Yep, clean up some overlaps that weren't just perfect.
One thing that he talked to me about that I did not know when he was stamping is something you got to consider is as you're going along stamping, each stamp slightly expands the leather. So it takes this flat piece and kind of starts spreading it out because you're mashing it down just like a piece of dough. And so it can make it tough to make every single stamp line up when it's a continuous pattern like this because it starts stretching. Just something to keep in mind.
You know, one of the tricks is to back it, just to glue fabric on the back of it when you're stamping, right? So
interesting.
Glue that, and that keeps the leather from expanding so much. But
gotcha.
Let's take this over to our knife, and I'm going to do a really rough shaping so it can dry overnight. I'm just going to mold this flare this out just a little bit. And then we'll just let that dry like that. Okay, so it doesn't have to be perfect. You just want to get it started. All right, so tomorrow we will oil this, top coat it, and antique it, and that'll really give this dragon scale a dramatic effect. Okay, so I let this dry overnight, and then earlier today I oiled it, and we gave it all day to penetrate and get a nice even penetration. So now we're going to top coat it and prepare it for antiquing. And here again, you want to bring the color all even so it doesn't streak. And the faster you can hit that with a sponge
To even it out.
the better.
Before it.
You can see that's why I didn't do each piece and then wipe it. Okay, so the next step will be antiquing after this dries for a little bit. In the meantime, I gotta go feed the horses. Oh, I didn't forget about you. There you go. Work this antiquing nice and hard. Got circular motion, get it in all those little grooves. Flat palm. First thing we'll do is I'll position this loop and we'll sew that on. Well, the first thing we'll do is we'll edge everything and then we'll sew that on. Take out the Aussie. And then we're also put a little of this right down the blade. Add a little tiny bit of water protection. Make the whole thing a little tackier on the inside so the knife has a reason to stay home. So we want to be able to twist and pull. Goes in, gets stuck, twist and pull. Throw some glue on here. That's the thing about custom sheets and stuff, you know, you gotta try them out a little bit first. So when we set this, we'll set this and then we'll put the knife in and just make sure everything drops into position. The slot, the loop to hold the fire steel, and I'm using English bridle for this. It's a little softer. Caden liked the contrasting color combination, so we're going with it. Let me get this taken down a little bit. I can see my splitter needs a sharpening. All right, good. There, that's much better. It's a lot more supple.
A lot more supple.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were starting this with just the regular, what was that, 10 ounce?
Yeah.
Skirting leather that was split down, but it was still super stiff. So he had the idea, let's do English bridle because it's a lot more supple. And then we like the black color because it kind of goes with the antiquing. So
Yeah, it'll look nice. And we can get this good and snug around here. And then That should be plenty. Okay, so we'll take these candle pliers. We'll make a, now it's got a nice snug feel to it. That's going to lay like this. But before we do our final cut on this, so the question is, I suspect I'm going to need to we may need to go in and double that welt in there because it's catching. It wants to catch, but it won't. Yeah, so we're going to have to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in here and we're going to add another one of these shapes. And we'll do it like this. We're going to trim this off and we're going to add another level of this shape and then skive it to 0 out here. So we have it skived, but it'll be double that thickness. So there's enough. Because what's happening is this is getting lifted off.
Right.
Right?
And so that is clearing.
Yeah, it's clearing. Yeah. You can't get it, it won't hook.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, no problem. Can be done. All right, so I will skive this down on the back side of this so it's just paper thin. And then when we put it together, then see now that knife, when that sheath comes up, that knife has a chance to catch that welt. And then he can rotate it. This is where you just have to commit. Yes, sir, that's good. Okay, I'm going to take the welt down. That way we can find the front easier. Yep. And then the last thing we'll do is insert. Get this the right depth and we'll insert that in. Okay. Now we're going to glue the two halves together. And I just want to, you want to be really precise about where the seams are so that you're not sewing. You've always got more leather on the back than on the front. So when you sew the whole thing together, you can trim to this edge. That's what we're shooting for. Okay, so in the case of this sheath, what we need to do is we need to trim this edge down, and then we'll insert this. So we'll trim this and finish this edge, and then we'll sew it together with this in place. All right, so we're going to hit that twice. So that's the first coat, and then we're going to stain it again so we can get it really deep.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Take this edge off and we'll finish it and polish it and it'll be ready to go. Okay, so last step is I'm going to fill this sheath with water and then do a final mold. Let it sit overnight on this knife, and that'll be a wrap. That's all we got for you. Check out the rest of the videos on our channel, and thanks for watching.